Do your clients experience their higher self when they're in your sessions?
Yes, that is what I promote, is tuning into your higher self so that you can truly experience heaven in the physical realm, and how to co-create that and heal yourself and those around you. The universe supports us when we make selfless decisions. And ultimately, through my near-death experience, there's a huge lesson there that a lot of people overlook.
Welcome to the Past Life Awakening podcast. I'm Mark Beal, and today my guest is Crystal Faith. She's often known for her near-death experience where she was pronounced clinically dead in hospital. Today, we'll discuss her near-death experience, but we'll also focus on what happened after her NDE and how it led to her becoming a spiritually based healer. Because Crystal is now a hypnotherapist, someone who takes people to between lives, and she's a spiritual life coach. We'll also discuss other ways she works through retreats, workshops, her writing of books, public speaking, and being a podcast guest. So welcome to this podcast, Crystal.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Your near-death experience was about age 17, is that right?
That is correct, Mark.
Right, so it's early in life. So I thought we could have a look at what was your life like before that. So where did you grow up and what were you like as a child, particularly your religious or spiritual background?
I grew up in the Midwest, and I did for the most part, attend a Lutheran church and was brought up Lutheran. And I really adhered to those principles. I had a really strong relationship with the pastor, and I felt very connected with him and the community there. But there was always, I don't know if you want to jump right in, but I had so many spiritual experiences. I had experiences with imaginary friends that I felt were real, and I spent a lot of time in nature outside. I certainly always felt a lack of feeling love and at home. So I felt misplaced. I felt like, where is my home? I don't feel love. Because I remembered I was born and I carried in that remembrance of feeling pure love and being at home all the time. So I did have a detachment from that, and I recognized that as a child, and I yearned for love. And for a while, I perhaps sought love in the wrong way. So that's how I got pregnant so young, um, and had a baby at 17, where I was pronounced dead for 53 minutes during the cesarean.
Okay. So as a child or a teenager, what were you like in terms of your ambitions, the things that you wanted to do, your goals? Was healing ever a part of it?
Kind of. I had a passion for, believe it or not, archaeology, but everybody would laugh at me and say, "You're never going to make any money in that field." And then I wanted to be a veterinarian because I just loved animals so much in nature. But ultimately, what really pushed me into my career path was having a child and then a second child at such a young age and being critiqued for it. And I was a go-getter. I wanted the perfect future for my children more than myself. So I pursued law degree at Creighton University in Omaha.
Well, I guess we just jump right in. So at age 17, the near-death experience was due to a complicated pregnancy that culminated in a medical emergency. So is that
Yeah.
right? And I also heard you were given a difficult choice in those moments. So you can tell us a bit about
Yeah.
that part, the reasons for your physical death for those 53 minutes.
Yeah. So going into that cesarean, um, what was happening was I was in a long labor. It was preterm. I was having a difficult time holding the pregnancy at 17 weeks. And at this point, I'm almost 32 weeks. So I'm in the hospital, and they go to put the monitor on the baby's head, which is a physical procedure. And they had to break the waters to reach the head. And during that procedure, they must have accidentally nicked a vein in my uterus or womb somewhere. And the amniotic fluid started escaping the womb and going through my bloodstream. And as it was going through my bloodstream, I was beginning to suffer from being able to breathe. And my organs were shutting down, and the doctors had no clue what was going on. And almost immediately after putting the monitor in the head, I was feeling a lack of oxygen and beginning to panic. And so they called the anesthesiologist into the room, who by the way, has a beautiful story in my book.
Mm.
And he was just administered the medication for providing me an epidural. And the doctor that was going to deliver baby came running into the room in a sheer state of panic. And he said, "We need to get this baby out right now. Her heartbeat is 54." Well, her heartbeat was low because mine was going low, but they were so focused on the baby that they weren't catching what was going on. And he looked at me and, well, first the epidural, I'm sorry, the anesthesiologist said, "I just administered the epidural. If I give her medication for a C-section, those two medications will most likely contradict, and it could potentially put her at risk of feeling a C-section."
Mm.
And the doctor looked at me in the eyes and he said, "Well, do you want a baby alive or dead?" And at this point, I had been on bed rest that whole time. So, of course, I wanted my baby alive. And I elected to go into the procedure and most certainly felt the entire C-section while, sorry, while also not being able to catch my breath and my organs were shutting down and going into shock. So I managed to hold on until I heard the baby's first cry. And as soon as I heard her cry, I remember I was just so thrilled. I said, "Okay, God, I did it. Now get me out of here. Get me out of pain." And I brought that baby in, just relieve me from this pain now. And I popped out of my body and died for the first time.
Right. So your baby survives the birth and the experience, and you know that at this point, and that's the first baby that you had, and she survived. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay. And then leading into it, it was an immense amount of pain that was
yeah,
part of the trigger for you to pop out of your body.
absolutely.
There's also the issue with the lungs. And so was it a combination there of I'd physically died, but there's also a part where I just got to a pain threshold where I had an out-of-body experience that coincided with a biological experience? Or how did they sort of mix or mingle?
Yeah, great question. I believe I had a subconscious will or willpower to survive long enough for the baby to be born. I just, even at a young age, I knew that I would have to push through this for this baby to survive. And that was my number one priority. And I didn't even understand I was dying. I just felt a lot of pain. So as I'm laying there and feeling this pain, I was begging, like, and I heard the voice of the baby crying. I began to beg God to relieve me from the pain, and I didn't know what I was asking for. So I now know that be careful what you ask for because you're just going to get it. So when I popped out, um, I, well, there was a resident doctor in the room teaching students. It was a university hospital, what was going on. And that week, he had actually and ironically just went over an amniotic fluid embolism, which is just one little paragraph long in all of the medical books. And he recognized, oh, this might be one of those. So he called it out and they put a tube down my throat, which preserved 15% oxygen in my lungs. And ultimately, that's what saved me. But by this point, the amniotic fluid traveled through my bloodstream, went through all my major organs, my brain, heart, everything. But all of our little fetal cells and hair that was in the amniotic fluid created a plug in my lungs. So it was filtering the fluid. And between the tube being placed in and inserted at the exact time it did, um, and that little plug, I was able to um, save 15% of lung, and that's actually what ultimately had me survive. But I coded. They revived me there on the C-section table in a very hasty way and sent me straight to ICU. I saw the pulmonologist being called from a desk. I was watching this from above the room, and I watched the pulmonologist come from the nurses' station and join the crew going up the elevator to ICU. And all three of these doctors I've mentioned are signed off on my book,
Mm.
and their stories, their real life stories, are also integrated into my books. Their stories, the whole thing is so beautifully orchestrated. It's just so beautiful. But I went to ICU. They were able to recover me. in the C-section room, but I coded again on the way up. And I was watching them from above the elevator and then above the ER room. And I even brought my awareness to another part of the hospital where I engaged and observed a conversation between my sister and my grandfather, who were discussing how my lungs were 85% full of fluid. And I think the universe allowed me to observe that scene to provide me clarity on what was going on with me.
Okay. You just going back to that doctor that gave you that kind of very stark choice. What it was,
Yeah.
you've got a choice. Either way, do you want your baby to be alive or dead?
Yeah.
In a way, the choice was, do you want to risk your own life in order to give your baby a chance to live? And that sounds a bit more like what it was. Have you thought about that? What do you think of that?
Yeah, retrospectively, that is what I observed that statement to be. But at the time, that doctor, I believe, was we need to get this baby out. And he didn't recognize I was having a hard time physically. So I think he just imagined when he made that statement, his intention was, let's get that baby out and have her survive. And you're going to survive either way because he didn't understand that my body was in distress. He just thought I would be in physical pain.
But did you know that you're in distress and you know you're making potentially giving your life as a sacrifice even then, or at least in that holding on?
I was absolutely exhausted actually because I'd been in labor for so long and I was such a young age. I didn't know what I didn't know. So I just was just listening to authority. And
Mm.
when you have a doctor making a recommendation, you assume they know that they're the ultimate authority and you don't. I essentially gave my power away at that moment. And I've had to go back and do some self-healing work to get that power back in order to trust medical community again.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I think there can be a part as well where in a time like that, there can be a bit of a you or me. And I think we sort of know subconsciously in childbirth that it can be, do we save the child or do we save the mother? And that there can be a part of you there that I don't know what I don't know, but there's also a part of me which didn't automatically cling for safety or didn't react in fear and was prepared to take a chance, believe and back myself, and hope that we don't have to have, we can have a best case scenario where it doesn't have to be one life or death. Because in the end, both got out through you taking that chance.
Yeah, I think the universe supports us when we make selfless decisions. And ultimately, through my near death experience, I was begging this angel or interdimensional ET being to go back to the earth. And she essentially told me, you can't go back um, for two reasons. One, your body's completely wasted. And two, I don't have the permission, is ultimately what she said.
Mm.
And, but it was critical because I had such an overwhelming love for this baby I just gave birth to. And even though she was telling me my body was wasted and I'm really sorry, essentially, I can't send you back into that. Um, my willpower to survive and come back to the earth realm or physical realm as a selfless act of love to raise my daughter and bring her up with love ultimately was how I was able to get back here.
Yeah.
That's how I was able to get permission. And there's a huge lesson there that a lot of people overlook. And I believe that God's source love, energy, or the universe, however you want to refer to it as, it listens to us. And we are God. We hold the essence of God within us. We are an essence of God within us. And we can command and and direct our reality by speaking what we want. And that's why we got to be really careful about what we wish for and what we ask for because we really can get it. And in this case, when you are manifesting, which is a lot how a lot of people refer to this as, if you manifest, I'll use that word, on a selfless act, and you do it for something outside of yourself with love, you will get it. It will respond. between that free will and the willpower energy that you bring into existence.
That's beautiful. I think that's a big, so, and throughout a lot of this, I think it's useful. Like, what is the lesson? What is that teaching us? And you were given that stark choice, but it was a false choice in a way. And you were able to
Yeah.
not be stuck into that choice. And you were able to say, I understand the question you're posing me, but this is the question that I will pose myself and therefore answer. Or even in that spiritual realm where you said, I don't have the permission for this, but you're able to say, well, find out who does. And so I just love the fact that you engage with them to make them ask you better questions. We can often be boxed in by conventional limiting beliefs or circumstances that make us think that we're stuck in some sort of box. But they're two examples in life or death manners where you're able to break out of that. I think that's a really important message for it. And so that was how you were able to come back into the body. But I'm interested to have a little to talk about what happened in your near-death experience when you were dead. But can we do it in terms of how does that relate to the kind of experiences that you have when you take clients through? You're a healer. And so you've been able to take and integrate this experience over many years and learn all these lessons and understand what it means so you can now help other people. And now that when you guide people using hypnosis into past lives, past deaths, between lives, realms of consciousness that may transcend ideas of time, are they able to go on and have similar experiences to what you had in near-death experiences? For example, when your near-death experience, did you meet your spirit guide, higher self, divine beings, soul group members, that kind of thing?
Yeah. Um, let's start with who I met and where I went. When I first exited my body, there was an older lady there. And when I say older, it's like 30, 35, so way younger than what I am today. But from the perspective of a 17-year-old, I thought she was old.
Hmm.
And she met me above the room. And 6 months later, I think this is fun to insert this message here too, because it provides so much comfort to those people who have near loved ones on the other side. And that's one of my favorite messages to share. So I'll go into that and then I'll come back to where we're going. But I met this lady above the room and I didn't know who she was. And I just felt like she was familiar to me. And we spoke telepathically. So when I looked her in the eyes and I felt her love for me, which was so overwhelming, I asked, well, who are you? And she literally said, I am the one who named you. And I had no idea what that was. And 6 months later, after I came back to life, and keep in mind, I had zero voice for almost a year. I had to go to vocal cord and speech therapy in order to get my voice back. And even then, honestly, they couldn't get my voice back. I had to use my willpower and free will to bring it into existence, which is one of my first, or one of my very first self-healing experiences. And but I approached my mom in the middle of the night and she was up late doing genealogy on the computer. And I'd come down, I was staying at her house and I went to use the restroom, but I stopped and I said, hey, wait a minute, I know her. And I pointed, but I'm speaking and motioning, but can't actually talk. So I point to the picture and I point, and there's a whole bunch of girls sitting on a brick wall, black and white photo. And I point straight to the one. I said, I know her. And my mom was like, no, you don't know her because she died before you were born. And I took out a notebook and a pen, which were readily available given my state of my being. And I wrote down, well, she said she's the one who named me in my near death experience. Actually, I wrote afterlife experience because I wasn't familiar with Raymond Moody's terminology yet.
Yeah.
And I didn't let her see it. And she proceeded to tell me that she had, that was my grandmother and she passed away right before I was born. So I showed her this, what I had wrote, and she just broke down sobbing and crying. And no offense, because I know my mom's going to see this, but she's a non-emotional person. She doesn't cry. So I gave her a moment to get through that. And she said, well, that's so interesting because I went to go see her when I was 8.5 months pregnant with you, right before she passed. And I was so excited that I had an ultrasound, and the ultrasound scans showed that you would be a boy. And she had said, no, honey, you're going to have a girl and you're going to name her Crystal Faith. because she's going to have pure faith in this world. And my mom was like, whatever, you're getting old, you're delusional, I'm definitely having a girl or a boy. And sure enough, a few weeks later, when I was born, she passed. My mom didn't have a girl name picked out. So, of course, she thinks of that name and she just names me that. And for every year of my life until this point, everybody always told my mom, wow, what a beautiful name. How'd you come up with it? And she goes, oh, I don't know. I just thought of it. And she said, but one of the main core lessons her grandmother had always tried to teach her was, Terry, you can't take someone else's credit. You got to give credit to where it belongs. And so that that lesson continued onward. And I think I saw her in my near-death experience just for my mom's sake more than for my own. So I think that's amazing. But at some point during that conversation, she told me to turn and go towards the light. And just like in hypnotherapy, when you say something, you just immediately do it. It's like a sense of divine authority you can't object to when you're completely surrendered to the moment. So I want to say turned, but I brought my awareness to this light, and suddenly I was in a new realm, and it was like a um, pure bright white light, just absolutely brightest white ever. And I could talk about it all day long, and I can speculate what I believe and where I was. But another thing I wanted to mention is the profound sense of sound. When the moment I crossed over, I heard the most beautiful music I'd ever even imagined in my life. I couldn't even give you an analogy of what it sounds like. It's just harmonious, beautiful, exhaling, constant stream of music, but the musical instruments were governed by the vocal cords of what I would like to call angels. And when they sing, they exhale and they never have to take a breath in. So it's just this constant outpour of pure love energy and turned in with frequency that turns into this beautiful sound. So my whole heavenly experience, I'm listening to this sound that I described from the beginning was a song for me and a song for God at the same time. And then I went to this garden space.
Can I just jump in there and ask you? So you met you so the first step was meeting a grandmother
Mhm.
who you didn't know she was your grandmother, so she was a spirit entity at that point. And you also mentioned just like in hypnotherapy. Is that something you
Yeah.
see now? So people might think, I would like to meet a loved one or a spirit guide or a guiding spirit like a grandmother. Is that something that you see in your healing clients?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, because you get them into a state of hypnosis where they're just a state of being or a state of love, and they're just so fully relaxed that they can transcend space and time. And it's interesting because I've had some clients come to me and we're in session and they're told these messages from loved ones they've never heard before. I had one person in particular talk about a piece of jewelry and how it was missing. And one of her subconscious questions she was going to ask herself was, where was that missing piece? Well, before she could even ask that, this loved one enters her regression session, if that's what you want to call it,
Yeah.
and it approached her, and I kept her calm, and I navigated her to have a telepathic conversation with her, and it comes in a sense of knowings or like a download, more than listening to a conversation play out. And this entity being in her experience, which was a family member, explained to her exactly where that piece of jewelry was. And sure enough, after her session, she went and looked, and that's exactly where it was, is in some box in her closet that she hadn't even thought of looking before, because it was something that she didn't even think that person had ever touched. But long story short, that happens a lot. I get a lot of spouses, children, and I also want to emphasize here too that this is not a healthy platform to come find and talk to your loved ones. Um, that's to me unhealthy. Uh, but once you're past the initial trauma stage and you've kind of processed that, I fully believe that love of a loved one quantum entangles us or into us upon their death, and a part of them becomes a part of you. So when you go into a state of hypnosis and you're very calm, your mind relaxes and you pick up on some of the memories or ability to recall or the energy of your loved one who's always with you. And you don't have to give your power away to a hypnotherapist in order to access that love and connect with your loved ones. But I can certainly bring you into a state of hypnosis and teach you how to do it yourself. And that's so, so important to not give your power away and also come to that type of session with a healthy, clear state of mind and have had some moments of grievance.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I agree with you completely. So I have exactly the same experience. For me, if I'm doing past lives, between lives regression, and it's well known. Michael Newton and Brian Weiss, people, it's in the
I love them.
textbooks and it's spoken about. And so it's something where, but it's interesting that as a 17-year-old, you hadn't read those books. You didn't know this is what you were supposed to experience. And in a way, it
Yeah.
is textbook. And the other thing as well, it's also not just a spontaneous event that happens to you one time that you can't replicate and that you how to digest it and what to do with it. You're able to then see the commonalities between the near-death experience that you had, and there are some parts that people don't necessarily experience in a hypnotic regression, but there are plenty that they do. So it's typical that it'll either be a spirit guide who wasn't connected to you by having a human body and being known to you, but a lot of times it is. And a lot of times, I agree with you, as people, it's not an invitation to connect with a recently deceased loved one. It's most often, in your case, exactly someone you didn't know, a grandparent, or someone who passed away long ago who you don't have this emotional sort of needing for. But it is something that does help you process the fact that you're dying. Often for me, it's in a past life. For you, it was in this life. And then it redirects you into the next phase, which is where we can go back to you coming into the light. And so, and because people can need to digest and process what's happening and be guided in that right way. And as you say, in hypnotherapy, it can be very literal. If you don't get some direction to turn another direction and move somewhere, you may not for a little while. And so in past lives, we see people hanging around the body for days or weeks, observing what's happening. But for you, you could have just spent the entire time watching the surgical process, for example. But
Yeah.
you didn't. You went through into this light, and we can pick up with this angel song. And so what was that then like moving? And did you then leave the scene of the hospital and go into a completely different dimension?
Yeah, there were a lot of scenes, but I'm going to try to keep it simple for your viewers, which is why I go deeper into this on my own YouTube channel because I could talk for hours.
Sure.
But one of my biggest takeaways is that we literally create our reality in heaven, and I was told, just like we do on earth.
Yeah.
And when I was told that, I received these downloads that are becoming more and more clear to me what they mean. And when you get those downloads there, which I'll go over in just a moment, they come in, it's almost like okay, let me say it this way. It's almost like you're going through a tunnel and it comes at you really, really fast. And you see, I personally was seeing these golden light images coming at me, which since then, the only thing I've been able to find, even though there's not a lot of real information out there on it, is that these could be referred to as light codes. So I got these light codes that came in, and it was almost like they were being interwoven or woken up from within my own DNA. And I really try hard that when I get people into a state of nothingness or a black void space, that we download them with information. And I use this technique a lot as if they're given light codes or codes that they could absorb into their DNA in hypnosis. But when I turned towards the light, I stood there for a while and I was just in pure glory being healed and being healed on all levels, not just my body at this point, because I felt like I had a body, but I didn't question whether I did or not. I didn't think to look down and see if I actually had one. I just felt as if I had a body, um, which now I hate to speculate here, but it feels like I did have an energy body. And as I got kind of bored, because we're creators, right? And we always want to create and create and create. I decided I'm going to go left, and I started going left, and I felt this sensation of movement, and it felt very good. So I used willpower, which is something that I strongly encourage you to really focus on. What does that mean? Because willpower is literally how you create whatever you want to create right now. You can quantum leap, all this jargon that spiritual healers talk about, but really it's just your willpower brought out of your heart. And when you're in a heaven experience, you use willpower fully, and there's no body filter holding you back. So if you have the will to go left, you get to go left. If you want to go faster, you get to go faster. If at some point I said, boy, this is beautiful, but it almost needs color, and suddenly I was immersed in this beautiful garden space, and I felt everything alive around me, and I was at one with it, and we were one universal collective consciousness together, and I was co-creating in this experience as well. So wherever I brought my awareness, things would start to emerge more into my realm or my reality. And I know that this is actually how the physical realm works too, because that's I can get off on a tangent, sorry, but that's why weeds can push through pieces of concrete just to bring glory to the universal collective or the quantum realm around us. And but as I went through the garden, I went right, and which is interesting because the Bible tells you that Jesus or your divine leader, your spiritual guide, is on the right hand side of God. And you are an essence of God or God's source love energy. And I went right, which is how I accessed my spiritual leader, or what I also like to refer to as my own energy, my own opposing energy. Like my masculine energy, if I'm the feminine energy, or there's so many ways to refer to it. But I spoke to this Jesus guy in the garden telepathically, and I felt at one with him. I felt familiar with him. You speak again through your eyes. And as I asked a question, it was simultaneously received as a sense of knowing or a download. And there were many times that as I asked a question, it was like time space there stopped, and I got those light codes coming at me again, and I understood so much information just by a few codes. It was like reading encyclopedia books and just fully understanding it. And we all have the capability to do that because you and I both exist outside of space time right now. Even though it looks like I'm in a physical environment, in a physical world, you have access to tapping outside of your physical presence and into the space outside of space time. And that's where you go when you die. And that's what your heaven experience is. And you're currently programming your heaven experience with whatever you're inputting into your reality. So I can get off on a tangent on that too.
Can I ask, is that also a realm that you're able to help people access when you use hypnosis and regress them or into these states?
Yes. And it's just a pure state of love or a state of being. If anything, I show my clients through techniques that they can do to gain access to those experiences anytime. And it's really a state of self hypnosis or self meditation where you're completely relaxed in the comfort of your own home during wee hours of the night or whatever, wherever you are, and how to relax your mind and tune into that and bring your awareness to that space within you. Heaven is within you when you turn, but yet it's such a funny way. It's interdimensional. So I don't want to get into the weeds on that, but yes, yes, I can get clients there.
The key point there as well is I think you're talking about a real creativity and a love, which I think is such a great antidote to what a lot of people may come with, which is a sense of restriction and some fears, worries, doubts. And so, can you tell us a bit about what will bring people to have sessions with you, and therefore that would then trigger them to have this? Because there's probably you had this trigger of going through this biological experience, but other people, and that great pain that had you leave the body. Do you find some of your clients have had spiritual awakening or near-death experiences like you, or they haven't, but they've also just facing significant pain in their life that motivates them and they to be able to access these kind of states?
Yeah. Um, Great question. I believe anything that impedes or impedes the darkness or fear within you is just a limiting belief. And because you are God's source love energy, all you have to do is shine your light onto that sense of unknowing and bring knowingness to it. Bring your awareness to it and cast your love and light to it. And you'll find that there is nothing that you could possibly experience in life that could actually be scary once you bring your awareness to it. So a limiting belief is just anything that you're not bringing your awareness to with love and light. And it's quite a simple procedure to work on that. And I like to use like a plasma ball analogy. So, Mark, do you know like those plasma balls that you put your hand on and you see the electricity moving when you move your hand around it?
Sure, yes.
So I feel like that plasma inside that glass ball is the universal collective. And again, this is speculation, but this is just a great analogy for me to explain to people. Um, but we are one. You and I are the same being, and because we exist outside space time, God source love energy is taking turns experiencing you and I right now, and our consciousness engaging with one another is what locks this moment in space time. So, but with that being said, this is a good one. The universal collective is within a glass ball. And if you bring your awareness to something outside of that glass dome, it feels a little bit forbidden or dark or unknown. And the fear of unknown is actually one of the greatest fears in life. I think outside of fear of speaking. And if you just cast your love and light onto that, you're going to push right past that clear glass ball and push your awareness out. And it's like you're using your willpower to direct the hand over that glass ball and it can continue onward. And another analogy that, if that one's not resonating for you, is if we are the universal collective and we can bring with our willpower love and light with joy into the physical reality. Consider that like the feminine energy, and the masculine energy is all that space around the dome. And if you just bring all your light and awareness outward, then you're going to be able to, the masculine energy is going to hold space for your energy to emerge into. And no matter what, it's going to be love and light there. Um, I can go further into it. I just
Right.
want to get really on point. It's also like turning on a light switch of a room. Classic 101 analogy. You turn the light on, darkness will evade. It's light always overcomes darkness. So you just have to look at the situation, the experience, bring your love and light to it, and say, look at it objectively out in front of you and without emotion. And just like, what is it about that I
Mm.
need to recognize, because everything external to us is a reflection of something internal to us.
I love all that. And I think it's really helpful as a healer to acknowledge, light and dark and these conflicts we have between fear and love. But what you're doing and talking about is really getting to a very transcendent level that goes beyond all of that. And that's something I agree with completely because I've written it in my book too, which is to me the stages you've got to transcend things being good or bad because you can forgive somebody, but then it's I forgive them. There's still self and other. I think you can transcend forgiveness, which is that you go beyond this sense of there being a difference between self and other. And so it can be that sense of, I'm afraid of somebody, or I've got to forgive somebody, or the other. And so, how do I forgive the other? Well, it's recognizing there are no others. You are the universe. And we're
Yes. And forgiveness is really a gift to yourself that you're expressing outwardly to somebody else. And when you recognize that whatever that someone else is really just another aspect of yourself. If you give a lot of love and light to the other being that did you wrong, no
mm,
matter what, you're going to bring healing to yourself, because right now you can't control the amount what their response is, but you can control your own response. And if
yeah,
you cast love and light outward, then you've healed that within you. And it's up to that being to receive that and also reciprocate that, whether now or in the next realm, which is what a lot of, as you know, our regression sessions go to. When we get people to life between lives, commonly I'll see a perpetrator or a victim of the co-therapist I'm meeting with in that moment, and they exchange a telepathic communication, and it's all about forgiving one another for something. And it's beautiful because in all of those situations, every single one actually, um, the victim always says it was so much easier being the victim than the perpetrator, or yeah, being the victim than the perpetrator on the other side. It's easier to forgive because then it puts you into a softer state of love, and
mm.
it softens your own subconscious. And the more love you give somebody, the more love the universe gives you during your earthly experience.
So that implies then that in a way, the perpetrator, if we can say that, has taken on a spiritual mission in order for us to be able to learn whatever lessons we do, have forgiveness and have compassion for them, but also gratitude for the role that they took.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important to begin this type of therapy after you've processed a little of your own trauma, because a true victim has a very hard time processing that initially.
Mm.
Um, but when you get them into a state of hypnosis outside of state of time space, they can see things more objectively without feeling the emotions of being the victim in the role. And it's almost like they get to see that glass ball again, but they're out here looking down at it like a fishbowl, um, and they
That
could see what's going on in that scene.
I love that. And it's absolutely right. That's something I would never say to somebody that this was all part of a soul's plan and you took that on and they're helping you. I would never say that to people, but they say it to me when they're in hypnosis, when they're
Yeah.
out of their body, when they're in a transcendent state where they're not very attached to their own sense of self and therefore to the sense of other. They're attached to a sense of universal consciousness. And so when you talk about, and then I started getting all these downloads. And so these downloads can be, forgive, but it's also transcend forgiveness. And it's you are this, but then and all of these transcendent things that are difficult to and not even necessary to experience or understand at certain stages of the healing journey. So if you want to do hypnotherapy, forgive people. If you want to do past life regression, see the karmic consequences of how you forgive them because they did it to you in a past life. But when you get to between lives or this really transcendent realm, you go beyond this life, past lives, time, self, and other. And so that's one thing as well. And so when it's something that people build up to. And so is that something that you agree or you see with the people that you're working with?
Absolutely.
And so I actually notice you offer 3 session programs. People who do, you also work with QHHT, and that's often a 1 session program. But you also work with Between Lives. And I think is it right that you have a 3 session program? Is that part of the reason for this?
Yeah. So a lot of people will do a past life regression, but they come to the table with lots of underlying purposes behind why they want to do that session. So my first appointment's to go over all of that. And that could easily take an hour and a half minimum. And I block it I'm sorry, I book it for an hour and a half, but I allow an hour buffer because it is not uncommon for that to easily go 2.5 hours of, so that we can download Crystal with
Mm,
everything the client wants to express and reach with their goals. And so I'm very familiar with what your goals are. And then in your QHHT appointment, I'll call it that because as you know, as a therapist in this field, QHHT is like less than 5% of what you need to know as a therapist guiding your clients through regression. But you get your client into that main appointment, and that appointment I block out 5 hours, even though, again, it can go longer. And I follow the protocol there. Depending on the goals of the client, because some clients don't really want a regression of a past life.
mm,
Sometimes they want to do regression of this lifetime, or they want to bring their awareness to a block that they're experiencing in this life, whether it's abundance or I get a lot of people who do self-sabotaging and they're like, why do I have a self-sabotaging block? But it's just really, I'll keep it simple. QHHT, they go over like every all the roles and players of your life, your family hierarchy, the people that are important to you, just in case they come up during session.
mm.
And what that does is it softens your mind and it opens you up to remembering things that happen in this lifetime so that your subconscious self can slip easier into that mindset so that when you're in regression, the connections of those energies come up. Then we do the regression session. I direct the client most typically to a past life. And then we spend some time with the life between lives if they don't want to go there immediately. And then there's always a point where I'll have the co-therapist come to the table with questions to ask their higher self or their subconscious self. And we go over those list of questions. But Mark, what's fascinating is even in the QHHT realm, there you go, if you got certified and you had access to their forums, you're going to recognize that one of the main problems hypnotherapists have in that field is they get their clients to a state of nothingness, is how it's referred to. And I call it the black void because when you die and come back, we consider that the black void. And in QHHT, therapists are kind of frowned upon when they get clients in there. They're like, oh no, I got my client in the state of nothingness. How do I get them out of it? They didn't get to experience a past life and everything failed. But what I want to encourage people to know is that is actually liquid gold. If you can get your clients to the black void space or the state of nothingness, liquid gold, because that is where you can get your clients to download all the information, all these new sense of knowings that they've always wanted to accomplish. That is a really great place to be asking those subconscious questions because you're in direct communication with their higher self right there. They're outside space time. Or their mind's so super relaxed if they're seeing black space again. That is how we want to train our co-therapist or our client, same thing, how to get to a state of meditation so that they can do that technique as a self-hypnosis or self-meditation anytime in the comfort of their own home. And when you get there, really where their subconscious is this quantum field. And what's in the quantum field? I mean, scientists already know it's just love and knowledge. And that's exactly where you want your client's mind or their subconscious mind to drift to when they want to tap into new sense of knowings or receive love.
So I love that, tapping into that inner wisdom and really getting
Mhm.
those downloads. That's fantastic. I'm curious, so is it okay if we go back a little bit? Because
Yes.
there's that part where, so this is what you're getting these downloads as a 17-year-old. Okay. And then and your baby survives. You're inspired to go on and look after them. You have another one earlier on too. But so can you tell us how are you able to integrate this experience? How are you able to make sense of it? How are these downloads able to help you? And what was your life like in terms of professionally? What kind of work you did? And so can you take us through this journey from becoming an adult and living with this as an adult, and then how you became a healer?
Yeah, thank you. Um, So let me start by giving you the preface of saying that even though you have a near-death experience, you're still human, and the spiritual experience is still a process or a journey. It's not an event, even if it's profound. So I came back with these amazing insights that I immediately started talking to people about. Anybody who listened, I would talk to them about it, and I'm still the same way. Um, I could be on an airplane and have the greatest conversation with someone next to me about this subject. It's just fascinating. But when I got when I came back, I was essentially a single mom right away, and I had a very short, like one night stand as a 19-year-old, got pregnant right away again, and through that experience, all of I hadn't quite gotten my power back from giving it to doctors. So I was going to all these doctors and they were trying to advise me to have an abortion with baby number two because my pregnancy was too high risk.
Mm.
Um, so the resident doctor actually became the Midwest first high risk OBGYN clinician because of this situation. And he later delivered baby three and four 12, 14 years later. But why I'm saying that is if any young mom that's out there right now, even at 25, you get frowned on everywhere you walk. People look at you and they judge you and they're thinking, wow, that person's not going to get far in life. And I came back with a sense of knowing that I have a mission to accomplish. And it extended beyond just bringing my daughter back to heaven, which was the initial golden ticket I was holding on to. I knew within me it goes further than this, and I didn't know what it was. Um, Yet it takes a while to get your sense of remembrance of who you are within you and what mission you're going to serve in this world. So all I knew is I was going to be single for a long time. I was told you'll get married 12 years later and have two more kids. And I was like, so what do I do for 12 years? How do I get these children to grow up so they're not impoverished or I'm not critiqued like that? I didn't like to be judged. I knew who I was as power within me. So I did what I did best. I went and applied for a Jesuit university, and it was hard to get in, but they took me in and um, they welcomed me with open arms. I got set up with an internship and ended up being mentored by one of the greatest attorneys in that area who invited and welcomed me into that same community of all of his friends and followers. And the universe just continued to support me. And because I expressed so much love and I volunteered and I did as much work as I could for humanity, the universe gave me that much more love and support back. So I've learned that there's this exercising ability that the more love you give, the more and support you give, the more love and support the universe gives you. So I had the most amazing single mother experience in the world. I always had way more resources than I ever needed. But during that journey, I realized I could do anything I want in this world. I am the creator of my existence. I could choose what I want. And who did I love most? It was my mentor, who was an attorney. So I pursued insurance law and ended up not needing a full attorney degree. I ended up just staying in the field of high-end insurance contracts and larger deals. And that's where I'm at, for the most part, all the way up until this point of my life. And it honestly, it pays more than an attorney for the most part too. So win-win for me at the time that served its purpose. But really what it did was it allowed me to continue doing what I needed to do without feeling the pressures of life, giving me limiting beliefs. I knew I could be a creator and continue outpouring love and volunteering and giving away as much as I can because I fully understand that God is within me. And that I wanted to step back a second too, Mark, 'cause earlier we were talking about love. And we all know that if a baby does something wrong, we pick them up and love them. And we're like, oh, it's okay. I know you didn't mean that. Just don't do it again. Because if you do, it's really just hurting yourself. And God treats us the same way. And when we do something wrong in life, He disciplines us with love, and He gives us these universal signs or synchronicities to kind of help us get back on our path. And that is really your higher self helping you get back on that path. And if you expand your love energy and you can forgive somebody fully, just know that you're the only one capable of giving that human the experience of being forgiven. And there's no greater gift, because you are God within you. And I don't mean to blow up your YouTube video or anything with comments saying that's blasphemy, but we do carry God love source energy within us. And if you can express forgiveness, then you can just imagine how much more the universe is going to give you in return. So that was the critical lesson I came back with, and that's been my fundamental motive in life, and that's been my journey, and that's been my story over and over and over. It's just that I am God within me.
One of the things that strikes me as you talk about that as well is that you have this spiritual experience, and you come back determined to be creative in this world, and there's love there, but there's love and connection with a mentor in the corporate world, and so it's with love and with creativity and with empowering yourself. You work in the corporate world for 20, 25 years, which is an interesting way of doing it. And so you did that at a high level and had a lot of love and joy in it. But then just before COVID, just before we were talking, that you had a shift. So then how did you go from 80 hours a week in the corporate world to feeling I'm going to shift towards hypnotherapy and practice? This is my practice. And so looking back, how do you look back on the last 20, 25 years and this shift from the conventional corporate world and loving doing that to now progressing into working more and more as a healer?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I understood it's the willpower within us that creates, and we can create with joy, and anything that we want, we can create it. So, Mark, at one point, I had two 24/7 childcare programs that were set up as Montessori's. I volunteered many, many different positions. I was on a couple of boards for nonprofits. I was going to law school and being an intern, homeschooling my child, yada, 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 lots of stuff.
Mm.
And I was able to do it because I remained a vessel of God energy and just allowed God to work through me. And that gave me natural energy. And just by being extremely present in the moment is where you find your joy and your creation. And when you're extremely present, you have an infinite amount of source love energy to express. So I understood I am the vessel and I'm allowing God to work through me. And with that, I can extend my capacity to do good in this world. So eventually I got through the schooling, and I ended up getting into major contracts and had a lot of really high-end big clients in the insurance field. Hit some major success, and it didn't come overnight. It's also a journey. And if I continue doing that today, that's great. I still gave so much to so many people, this love through my work. And what I did is still existence today. It's still in existence today, and it's sustainable. And what I've done is great. But there was something in me that was being stirred. And it was around the time I started recognizing you can get into hypnosis and go back to heaven and go back to that state of being that I was in when I was in heaven. So I went and did my own past life regression through somebody who was trained through Brian Weiss. And I was really excited. Maybe that was Newton. I can't remember, but anyway, she was trained very well to get me to life between lives. And as I'm in that session, I was like, this is it. This is where people need to go. this is how they can tap into their own inner knowing of pure everything I just explained, how to get there. And I said, well, if I spoke to the universe, if I ever lose one of my biggest contracts, I'm going to get into hypnosis. And at this point, I'm working 80 hours minimum a week, huge team of agents and people underneath me. And I'm running very big projects. And I was able to keep doing it. And at this point, I have two more kids. I'm in a marriage, lots of stuff going on. I'm no different than anybody else out there, but I knew that the stirring was awakening something within me. There is something more, and I have and possess this sense of knowing that there is more to do than just busyness. We need to get we need to get our stuff together and help the universal collective remember who they are and remember that they are love and they have the true capacity to co-create their own realities and take that knowledge and have even a better heavenly experience once you transcend yourself. So I said, universe, if this contract ever goes away, allow me to just be a hypnotherapist. And just in case, I said, I'm going to go sign up for hypnotherapy so I'm ready for it. So I went and got my first certificate from the Hypnotherapy Academy of America, taught by Tim Simmerman, a phenomenal, phenomenal program. Highly recommend that as a potential track course if you ever get into it. And at the same time, I was very engaged with this whole life between lives, past lives. So I did the Dolores Cannon, which helped a little bit. I can't lie. But again, she's about 5 to 10. And Tim's was maybe like another 10. It's just been a constant journey of trying to understand what is hypnosis and how to get people there and how to navigate them through these unique situations. And as soon as my hypnotherapy certification program really got started, I got a phone call that my partner was going to sell our biggest client. I'm like, oh, the universe works so fast. I can tell it's telling me to do this. And during that time, I also was asking for other major shifts. And immediately upon asking for each shift, it was simultaneously delivered. I was so in tune with what the universe needed me to do. I just allowed everything to play out, and I just observed it and allowed everything. I knew that no matter what, I'm divinely supported, and if I just relax and surrender, the universe is going to make a way for me to do even more for the universal collective. And that's where my shift has transitioned over the last 6 years now, 6.5 years.
I love that. And so there's a real integration process there. So you can have these spiritual experiences, but you still have to take care of business, which you did in a very conventional, very practical, very real, grounded way. And then you build up a lot of these skills, which are so helpful. So I also had some time in the corporate world, but then there's that shift, which is you do have to take care of business, but you probably don't get addicted to busyness for busyness's sake. You've taken care of business, you can do a shift. And it's interesting, it happened just before COVID. And what was COVID?
It was horrible for the insurance industry anyway. I'm glad I got out when I did.
Yeah, but it's also a collective message to the world. Stop with all your busyness for busyness's sake. Have a little reflection. Think about changes in direction. So many people changed direction at that time. So 25 years ago, you had your NDE, but 5 years ago, there's this other stage, this other level that opens up where hypnotherapy comes in more and more. So I think that's really interesting. And then there are other stages as well that I believe now you're doing these individual sessions that we've talked about, but you've also, and there's something I'm thinking about now as well, which is I've been doing a lot of individual sessions and teaching, but then even just thinking about messaging. So I've just recently put out a book, and that puts me on podcasts. You've got a book coming out, and I also found out about you from podcasts. So and I think podcasts are a really interesting and helpful way, which is it's one thing to do one-to-one sessions with people, but it's another to now take on this role of being a communicator and a messenger and speaking to a large audience about what we do in our healing sessions, not just thinking I'm comfortable in my little healing room with no one watching me. I'm going to go out onto these big platforms. So you and I have both been on the Jeff Mara podcast. And it's something I tell my students, go on podcasts, talk about what you do. What was it that made you aware of even just going on podcasts in the first place? How did you get that message or that idea to become not just a one-to-one person, but also a mass communicator?
Yeah, great question. I'm going to back up 25 and a half years ago, too. When I lost my voice giving birth to my daughter, I learned that this isn't a time for me. This lifetime isn't about speaking. It's about listening.
Mm.
And once I understood that, I said, thank you, universe. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I get the message, but allow me to have my voice back so I can speak to my daughter and sing to her. And I was able to speak to her, but I still cannot sing to her. She used to say, it's okay, Mom. I guess Jesus still loves your voice when you sing to him. Like I don't have a singing voice. What you hear is what you get. But I did learn to listen. And when I first tuned into Jeff Mara, I was actually interested in his ET side, which back then was all he discussed. And I was one of his early followers for the NDE thing. And I actually kept messaging him, you really should be interviewing people who've had a near-death experience, because at the end of mine, there was this ET experience kind of thing going on. And it really resembles the similar experiences people have with abductions and ET encounters. I said, you need to do some interviews on NDEs. And him and our relationship started years ago, and I kept pushing it. And kind of funny, there's a couple other major podcasters who are similar. I was kind of contacted them way before they got even probably 5 to 10,000 followers. Now they're way over 1 million. And
Mhm.
I was like, you guys need to talk to people about near-death experiences, not just ayahuasca and, some ceremonial medicinal ceremonies. And some of these major podcasters got there through the subconscious nudge from me to them and from their counterparts. I was just one of those collective people nudging them to move forward in that. And Mark, it's not about speaking and bringing people to me for practice. And which is why I'm designing my YouTube channel to go deeper into these insights, teach people how to do this themselves, and quit paying people for receiving external validation. You really should be going to therapists like yourself or me or other people. There's so many of us that teach you how to use these techniques at home so that you can carry that lesson and that knowing and that skill set for the rest of your life, so that not only can you continue healing with whatever you're presently experiencing, but all your future woos or whatever you need to go into meditation for. But you now will possess a skill set that you could share with all of those around you. And I really believe there should be one healer in every 10 people. Um, and anybody who comes to me, all I do is constantly A, listen to what they have to say so we could heal that. And then B, teach them as much as I know, as fast as I know, without wasting their time, and help them with skill sets that they can use to turn around and help those loved ones in their world. And so in my sessions, like, yes, we get a lot done, but my ultimate goal is to work through them for the universal collective.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think some people, when they see NDE experiences, might think, well, I would like to have an experience like that, but do I have to die to do it? And so, but in a way, I think of an NDE as a very visceral, spiritually transformative experience. But then the question is, how can I help other people have an experience like that? And I'm the same. It's a very short course of sessions. Also, you have 3 sessions with people, and then you've had that spiritually transformative experience. Now continue on with your own work. So we're very different to, have a session a week for years and years. That's right for some people if they're working through cognitive things or they're in the middle of things. But what we're providing is that a transformative experience. You've had that experience. So you know what it's like from the inside, and you've given it viscerally. Therefore, you can connect with people individually and help them have that kind of experiences as well, which sounds like a lot. And people might think, can you really do that? But do you find that they don't have to have an NDE, but the experience that they can have in just a short time, that it is enough that it becomes their kind of a big shifting moment through the sessions you do? Is that what you find with your clients?
Yeah. And really, when you go to heaven, you really just experience your higher self. So,
But do your clients experience their higher self when they're in your sessions?
yes, that is what I promote is tuning into your higher self so that you can truly experience heaven in the physical realm
Yeah.
and how to co-create that and heal yourself and those around you through whatever you need. And there's different ways I would word it on my website. I have a marketing team that are always trying to critique it. And I'm like, no, it's really tuning into your higher self and learning how to heal oneself, get your power back.
Yeah.
And when you get your power back, there's really a couple of short, very powerful meditations I use that transforms any limiting belief you have so that you own it. It has an I statement on it. You bring love and light to it, and then
Mm.
bring that power back within you. And you gradually get your power back, literally, because you're an energy light being
Yeah.
within your body.
People say, I'd like to have that experience, but I haven't had a near death. I also have people, and I had someone recently, a client who said she'd experienced plant medicine ayahuasca, but her spirit guides in her meditation had told her that's no longer for you. And so she ended up having past life regression sessions with me. And she said she came out of the first session and said, wow, my spirit guides told me not to have psychedelic medicine experiences anymore. And I feel like it was very much like that. So I can have a very similar experience without having to do the ceremony. And so again, so some people may be attracted to those kind of ceremonies, but some may not and think, well, I want to have an experience like that, but I don't want to have a near death or have ayahuasca. But they can have something similar to it just through hypnosis and through techniques that they can learn themselves, which is fantastic.
I got back from Peru yesterday. I was there for 3 weeks and we did an inner pilgrimage to your heart. And which was my intention going in and my intention going out. I've seen nothing but hearts, which is amazing. I've learned to follow my heart, but everybody instinctively thinks you're going there for plant medicine. And I
Yes.
realized I did mine through an organic experience. It was a vegan diet, just spending lots of time meditating and doing natural ceremonies that around fires and talk therapy and going to vortexes and portals. And I could talk about it all day long. But I
Yeah.
agree, psychedelics will distort your body's processor, your mind filter. And you can't control the outcome of what that is. All you need to do is plug into who you are within you, your higher self, your God source love energy, and allow that to be your master designer in your own realm and without the distortion.
So,
So a
so
lot of clients come to me, sorry for integrating after plant ceremony.
I'm going to ask a few questions in a row. Is plant medicine something that you've done on your journey?
I've never done it.
Was that part of your retreat for the last 2 weeks in Peru?
No, none.
Okay,
In
interesting.
fact, I want to promote the organic journey of going within the inner pilgrimage and reaching yourself on a healthy, organic way without putting substances into your body. And for the last 5 years, I would say 20% of people who reach out to me have had a major spiritual transformational experience, mostly through plant medicine, and they're stuck. They need help integrating back into the physical reality after experiencing what they experienced. And
Mm.
they need help unpacking and processing what they experienced. And at the end of the day, they're just giving themselves something into their body filter that distorts and creates an illusion. Yes, can it help you access and tap into that life between life space? Absolutely. But you have the power to do that. And the less substance you've put into your body and the healthier you are, the more loving and the more ability you're going to be able to understand how to co create your reality here. And that's why we go into those sessions to begin with.
Very interesting. I'm in South America at the moment, and I've spent 3 out of the last 4 years here, and
Yeah.
been in the Amazon 3 times. I had some experiences with psilocybin or plant medicine or hallucinogenics 20 to 20, probably 25 years ago, about the same time you were in hospital. And so I had some experiences then, but I also had since then, many meditative experiences. And for me, even the most profound externally triggered experiences are a fraction of what I've experienced without any external trigger. And I haven't felt called to do ayahuasca. It's also, I'm 52. Maybe if I was 25, I would have, but I'd had that experience, as a younger person, but also felt not called to it because whatever, and it's exactly what the Ram Dass has eventually recognized. Taking LSD in that time, tuning in, dropping out, and they gave it to their Indian guru, and he said, I mean, interesting, but it's nothing compared to meditation, real meditation. And I think this is an important thing. I think some people feel that they have to have some sort of, to have a really out there amazing experience, you have to die or take ayahuasca. And for me, it's just that part of that message I'm really glad you're saying, as I agree with it completely, is that you can have something as profound, if not more so, without it.
Those plant medicines, yeah, are like you give your power away to the plant medicine to teach you and show you something. So if you're being called, if spirit's calling you to do something, so be it. That's your journey. But if you want to use your free will and willpower to receive external validation and seek power from outside of you, then you're really giving your power away to that plant. And that's why you have to integrate. Yeah, sorry.
I think people have to be careful about what a real calling is. And it's not just that I saw a video about it on YouTube, therefore my spirit guide put it there and I'm being called. And I would be careful about following trends. You have to be profoundly called to do it, I would say. That there are profound experiences just in being in the energy center of Peru or the Amazon itself. There is something special about those energy centers. So can you tell us a little bit about the retreats?
Absolutely. So I was being called to go to a very sacred retreat. And if someone's interested, they can reach out to me and ask me for more information. But I don't want to just share their information because they have this, they believe that the energy that's being called to their land um, is is what the land needs from the individual too. It's a perfect exchange of information or
Mhm.
energy when you go there. And funny story, we were there for almost 3 weeks, and everybody that went to this retreat, the energy that they brought to the retreat center, it was it was like a collective energy where we all experienced things outside of our own control that almost prevented us from getting there. But what it did was it tested our willpower. How bad do you want to come here? And
Mhm.
if you're going to come here, you need to be serious about this. And so, as a universal collective group, we bring this energy there. We all run into major obstacles, almost missing gates, missing planes, delays for days, issues with visas that could potentially put someone in jail, like crazy things. And we all managed to get there. And then we recognize, wow, we just experienced that as a group. And this land is here to teach us a lesson about that. So, what is it about that? And it's like not about what happens to us in life, it's about how we respond to it. And how do we use our willpower to bring more love and light to that energy so that when we leave here, we cleanse that. And one by one, we each cleansed that energy so that when we transition back to the States or Canada or wherever we're from, we all experienced another turmoil, trial, or tribute. Like um, one person had a bracelet on their arm, and just as he passes the US border, he said the bracelet just popped off and it was tied on. And that was his experience, but we all experienced something else coming back. I lost my bag, my suitcase, and funny thing, I'm on the airplane looking outside, and I'm literally the window over the conveyor belt. So I'm like, oh, there's my suitcase. They're loading it. And this is in Colombia. And I watched him load my suitcase. And then as it's coming on the conveyor, I watched him pull it off the conveyor. And I'm like, that's weird. What's he doing with my suitcase? And I watched him holding the suitcase with two other ones near him. And I was like, there's something funny about this. I'm going to take a picture. And I took a picture and I'm like, okay, I'm going to throw that into the universe and I'm going to let the universe handle this. Like, if they're holding my suitcase for me, it's for a reason. And I'm going to allow this to unfold naturally to determine how I should respond to it rather than getting upset. So I didn't even contact a crew member. I was just like, okay, let's just observe what the universe is doing with this. There's something here. And sure enough, when I get to my final destination, I learned that my bag did not clear that checkpoint. And I reported what I seen, but I didn't even upload a photo or anything. I just simply reported it. And I said, okay, I'm going to let the universe resolve this, and I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to panic over medications that are inside there and gifts and things that I really want. It's all materialistic anyway. Let's just completely surrendered. And right before I came on your show today, I got a call from the airline that they received my baggage in my local community because I completely surrendered and I knew it would be okay if I just responded with love and light. And I used my energy for that. And I felt like I broke the curse that I went to the Sacred Valley with, trying to control, 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 rush, rush, rush. I broke that curse. I surrendered. And symbolically and most literally, I was rewarded with what I had lost anyway. Like I never lost it to begin with. I just completely surrendered. And one by one, all of those same individuals just shared with me today the exact same message I'm sharing with you about my experience. So the Sacred Valley is a great place to go and open up your heart space, really go inward and try to tune in. What is it that the universe or God, source, love, energy is trying to bring out of me and work through me and allow me to be the vessel for him or her, whatever you refer to God as. And there's always an exchange of energy. So all the vortexes and like Stargate and all these places you go to, it's all about exchanging your energy, leaving what no longer serves you and taking the energy of Mother Earth and allowing yourself to be the vessel so that you can provide that to the world. And that's what that sacred land is for. And you know what? It would be sacred on all of Mother Earth if
Mm.
we all spent time loving Mother Earth. And I'm a big nature lover and follower. And that's why a lot of people, when they go to national parks and forests, they feel that love energy is because there's always that exchange of love energy with Mother Earth there. But if you go to an area that's recently been deforested or maybe has pesticides all over it, you don't pick up that vibe anymore because people aren't giving their love back to that space and that physical realm right here on Earth. So the reason why Peru is so sacred is because the people there go there and they appreciate and love the earth. And if more and more people are going there to abuse the power of medicinal ceremonies, I think it's going to continue, it's going to decline that land's ability to heal people naturally with just its love and energy for us.
If people are wanting to work with you and they find issues or blocks in their life, are you open to one-to-one sessions with them? Can they contact you for that kind of work? And do they have to experience hypnosis? Do you also have life coaching or other ways that you work with them?
Great question. I have packages that are on the website for spiritual life coaching and hypnotherapy combination. There's always a different program or promo going on, so I'm not going to refer to one on your show right here. But what I do is I allow the co-therapist or the person coming to me to choose whether they want to just do talk therapy, spiritual life coaching, or hypnosis in each and every session. Like they could do all of one or all of the other or a combination. I really don't mind. My goal and intention is just to bring as much love and light to that person's life so that they can be a healer, so that they can turn around and share that and share what their knowledge, their new knowledge is. Um, And then also, yes, so there's packages on there. I offer a workshop. I'm doing several where I'm teaching people how to heal themselves with all things spiritual and woo-woo. So I'm trying to normalize things. And these retreats that I'm doing right now, I'm also in the process of setting up a couple of retreat centers across the United States. We have one that we're going to be partnering with IANS. That's the International Association of Near-Death Studies, and working with people who've had a near-death experience and helping them, or a spiritual transformational experience, and helping them integrate back into society and bring what they gained with that. Then we also have other communities that are going on that we're placing right on Native American reservation and working with the natives to not only provide them with job security and a stream of income, but also to teach people their way of life. And ultimately, I know we're all going to go back to living harmoniously with the planet. And those natives possess a lot of those key components deep within them. Even if they don't recall them right now, it's in their ancestral healing journey that they're going to recognize and remember those teachings. So my purpose is for that. And then I also have a book that's going to be published. I've been working on it for a while, going back and forth with the publisher. And I will have PDF rights on it. And I try to do everything I can with zero cost, zero cost. So you can go on my website and sign up for a free copy of the book. And rest assured, you will get one if you sign up for one. I'll send it on email as soon as it's ready to release. And then if you have, like, I don't care who you are, like if you have limited income or no income and you just need help with just 1 hour, like I'm here, I make myself available. You can go and schedule a discovery call, which is currently found on the bottom of my homepage. And I'll meet with you for 30, 60 minutes and tell you as much as I can, help you on your journey as fast as I can. And for those people who have an emergency, I even put my cell phone in the bottom of my website. So I try to make myself available. I just pour all my love and energy out, and I know the universe always provides for me in return. So I'm not about the money, which is always a hook for people when they see someone who's had an NDE get into this field.
Okay, fantastic. And so where can they find out about that? Can you remind us of your website?
Thank you. It is www.crystalfaith.net. Like I have faith in you, crystalfaith.net.
Beautiful. So that link will be in the show notes, so you can click through, and I'll put the link to your book when it comes out. And social media, where can people follow you? What accounts do you use?
I am mostly on Facebook. So it's also found at the bottom of my website. You can just click the little Facebook icon and it will go straight to my Facebook page because my name seems to be popular. There's a lot of crystal faiths that are emerging now. But you can find my direct Facebook link just by going to the bottom of my website.
Beautiful. So any last messages of what you've learned on your journey and what you'd pass on to others?
Yeah, even if I never speak to you, the listener, just remember that life is all about love and responding with love. It's all about love or the absence of love. And whatever amount of love that you open your heart to is the same amount, it's a state of love. That's how much love you're going to get back. And you may not get it from one individual, but you're going to be surprised by all the different ways you will be receiving it. So just open up your love space in your heart and exercise that, and you'll get more of it. And really, that's our ultimate mission in life, is to love and experience love.
Beautiful. Thanks so much for being a guest, Crystal Faith.
Thank you, Mark.